obvious superstructures around us are dissolving, like when no one's got any faith in parliamentary politics anymore, when people are losing interest in consumerism, when people think they can't get any political purchase. Movements like the Sweetsway estate, or movements like the Focus E15 mums, when people take their destiny and their lives into their own hands because they're failed by these institutions, become increasingly inspiring and increasingly necessary. So I've come along mostly because of Jasmine, but increasingly because you see these issues all over London, all over the country. It's happening in Hendon, it's happening in Barnet, it's happened in East London, it's happening in Aylesbury, everywhere, what's happening? And everyone's got the same problem, everyone's got the same opponents, and it's really hard for people to come together.
What do you think, Russ? Like, housing's now the issue, isn't it? Once upon a time, remember when it was the anti-war movement, everyone was, all the activists, everyone that was politicised, they were drawn to the anti-war movement. You know, back in the early 90s, a lot of it was identity politics, it was race, it was sexuality, but now it feels that housing, that's the lightning rod issue, isn't it?
I hadn't thought of it in those terms, John, but like I suppose you're right, and what's worrying about that is it's no longer abstract. I mean, not that compassion is, well, I suppose compassion is by its essence abstract, caring about other people. I suppose housing becoming so important is an indication that what people are affected by now is losing their homes. We're getting very near the bottom of Maslow's pyramid of needs. We're sort of burrowing underneath it now. People are losing their housing, people are losing their jobs, people are losing the right to have access to healthcare. And I suppose, in a way, if there's anything positive to be gleaned from that, it's the fact that people have got no choice but to participate.
Is that typical for English society?
Is what typical for English?
Is that what you're just describing? Is that what English society is about?
I don't know. I think it's beyond England. I mean, I'm not an expert on global politics, but it seems to be a sort of the disease of the secular West. We have no mythology, we have no ideology to believe in, and as a result, the dominant, invisible ideology of capitalism is all pervasive. The ideology that tells you that it isn't there. Everything's got a price tag on it, and we're such an all-encompassing ideology that we can't even see beyond it. We dream in capitalism now.
And is London the place where most of the people dream in capitalism?
I don't know that there's some particular. I mean, I suppose you're working for German TV.
We are.
Are you trying to make it look like, oh, England is particularly problematic? Like, I mean, I don't think England is any worse. I don't know. I mean,
personally, I think that London is sort of a showcase because you can see the divisive situation between the poor and the rich. But this is the place where you have the most exclusive houses, and you have obviously an awful lot of problems for people who are not developed.
I don't know how it relates to. I don't think it needs any further contextualisation. All that matters to me is that these children are losing their homes. So I mean, I don't, if it's happening in Paris or Istanbul or Dusseldorf, then that's interesting, and I imagine that there's comparable things happening. What's interesting to me is that these kids haven't got anywhere to live, and it's unnecessary. What are you saying, Shia?
Can I live with you?
You can come and move into my garage. But,
better than nothing.
You haven't seen his garage?
It's a bloody nice garage, yeah. I mean, the jacuzzi, Jesus.
What's the alternative to capitalism, do you think?
I think we're looking into it now, aren't we? We're learning about collectivised economies and cooperative economies. And my mate John here would tell you that sort of rainbow coalitions, people coming together to negotiate and coalesce, and people. What I suppose we want is bloody democracy, the thing that we're supposed to have.
And is that how you envision a post-revolution Britain?
Well, I think it's probably more important how these young men around me envisage it. You know, we may not see the promised land, but people participating actively in their workplaces, in their houses, in their communities.
You're stood inside the alternative now. You know, in Britain we had the largest socialist project outside the Soviet Union after the war. So we'd have to look into the distant past or far away to find alternatives. We have it here. This is it. This is a product of it. These kids were born in hospitals, or we were all born in hospitals that were built in that period. So it's not like a starry-eyed, my God, what could we possibly do? Yeah. We know what to do.
Russell, what do you think of Boris Johnson's actions around housing?
Well, from what I understand, tribally, Boris Johnson is part of the problem. Boris Johnson's more interested in courting foreign investors in the London property market. I don't see how he represents ordinary people at all, but then how could he, and why would he? So for me, Boris Johnson is very much part of the problem.
Do you think the Green Party's policies align with your views, especially on housing?
I think the Green Party seem fantastic, if only there were a constitutional reform to make them electable.
Russell,
And in fact, a kind of widespread democratic change so that people had participated in politics. For me, I just can't get my head around parliamentary politics anymore. It feels to me the line is dead. The building itself is decaying. It's like the walls are trying to speak to us. It's like the building is telling you, this is a rotten building full of people committing the worst transgressions against humankind imaginable. What do you need us to say to you before you lose interest in this system? How many more nocturnal, transgressive taboos and violations against the young, against all people, must we commit before you finally take your power back? How long are you going to look at possible variations of colour on that bland, corrupt, malign canvas?
What do you think of UKIP's take on the housing problem?
Those guys are great. Now, the reason I like UKIP is they're fun. They've got that lovely purple badge, and who's that lovely man with the pint of beer always on his head? Good guy, a lot of fun. No, I mean, I'm not interested in any, that kind of divisive stuff. I don't think UKIP are part of the conversation, really, are they, realistically? It's all daft, silly, retro, it's nostalgia politics.
What sort of lessons have you learnt from people like Jasmine and the Focus E15 mums and the sort of ordinary people who are kind of leading the movement?
They're the only people that matter. The only people that matter are people like Jasmine, people that are directly affected, and just get on with it. It just shows that's completely the answer. The minute Jasmine and women like her or families like her just go, well, you're not going to just make me homeless, I ain't having it, then that's it, it's over. The minute we stop participating, the minute we go, right, yeah, we've seen your system and it's wonderful, what a delightful suit and tie you're wearing, but we're going to just get on and build the kind of society we want. As soon as that happens, they're irrelevant, they're redundant. That's why they respond so aggressively to any true alternative movement or any true alternative ideas. That's why they protect the ideological space so vehemently, because all that really has to happen is ordinary people go, I ain't having that, I'm taking control of my work, I'm taking control of my houses, and that's the end of it. That's all. Once if people just say we're keeping these houses, what are they going to do? The police and the army going to come and shoot ordinary children? In fact, it's not going to happen. This is England, surely.
So, are there any limits to that kind of people power?
I don't think there are any limits. I think that for me, this is why I'm interested in the spiritual perspective, because for us, for me, as a conscious, sentient being, we can imagine new worlds, then create them. We can create the kind of society. If we can dream it, then we can create it. I'm not suggesting some sort of daft, whacked-out society where comedians sit around with young boys on the sofa proselytising on politics, although it does seem to be working now.
Are there any kind of moments you can point to, any sort of eureka moments you had in your personal life where you finally realised how powerful people can be?
I think that this whole entire movement, this entire housing movement, is a constant reminder, and it's sort of like the eureka moments are good, but this is no time for bath chatter. I mean, Archimedes, he was in the bath, of course, wasn't he, when he had that original eureka moment. I think he just dropped the soap. Alright, that seems to be quite a good press conference. I've given in the strangest situation imaginable, surrounded by very polite, very well behaved children. Johnny, do you want anything else, mate?
I think this is like John Lennon's bedding, isn't it? But we're
just going to sit here, we just want peace. What's wrong with that? What's so strange about peace? They're just me and Yoko in the form of these young children, and just going to sit here till peace comes. Get in a bag for peace. No, shut up, I hate kids. What we're going to do is we're going to... No, go on, what are you saying? I was joking, that was a joke. Oh, bless you. I mean, look, this is the truth of the matter is here. In a way, I could solve this problem. I'm a childless man of 39 by moving families into my admittedly nice house. But really what we're talking about is social change on a massive level, because there's loads of kids like you all over the country and all over the world. So we all have an obligation to help one another. And that can be very direct, like you coming and moving into my house. I mean, some people might think it's a bit weird. When that stuff happens in the celebrity world, it's normally got some dodgy connotations, you know what I'm saying? But what's important, mate, is not the individual acts of altruism and philanthropy, although that's lovely. What's important is that we change the systems. I don't even believe anymore that there's that David Cameron's a particularly malevolent person. He's just a human being who's part of a system that is completely corrupt. So what we want is systemic change. And of course the systems are made up of people and changed by people, mate. But people like you, people like us, if we say we want different systems now, then hopefully it won't be necessary for me to move a 10-year-old boy, who I don't know that well, into my house, because I think my cat will worry. Yeah, and I think Operation U-Tree would worry as well, perhaps more importantly.
Would you say that consciousness and infrastructure probably sums up what you think we
Everything
should go
that's
for.
here, everything that's here is a manifestation of a previously unrealised realm. Everything, whether it's this house that's still completely habitable, or whether it's you or I, we once existed in an unrealised realm, brought into being through consciousness, which things we barely understand in the quantum, subatomic and submolecular world. So yes, of course we can realise anything. I think when we have a different relationship with our consciousness, both individually and collectively, we can start to create new worlds, we can bring down new realms. I think it's a very exciting time for new ideologies. Everything doesn't have to be a revivalist or pastiche or in inverted commas. We can create something that's new, genuinely new and exciting.
So you would agree with Marx that fundamental human nature is labour?
I'm being asked if I agree with Marx now.
Is that changing the world around us?
Comprehensive school in Grace. Go on.
Because he said that fundamental to human nature was labour in its purest form, in changing the world around you before you can change yourself, before you can change society. Would you say that that's ultimate to human nature?
No, I think those things. I don't know, argue with Karl Marx on German television, but but I would say those processes happen concurrently and absolutely, and in fact are only separate from one another as a result of one thing. Ultimately, permutations of the infinite. So I think sort yourself out, everything else will be okay. Almost the reverse of what old Mark said.
Thank you.
There you go. Come on, let's go and do something else now, because I came in here for a quiet sit down. It's turned into a press conference.
Saying, like, what you think every person can do to help the cause, very briefly.
Do whatever you can do yourself, whatever affects you, get involved with it. If your housing is being effective, get involved with that. If your work is being effective, get involved with that. Cooperate with one another and collectivise.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Nice one,
I'm
mate.
Alex. Nice to meet you.
What a pleasure to meet you, Alex. Nice one, mate.